In today's video, I want to talk for a few minutes about when it might be time to ditch that old tax prep software like TaxSlayer, TaxAct, TurboTax, H&R Block, and actually go out and hire a real life human being for help preparing your tax return. The tax software has come a long way over the years, and it can really do a lot and helps a huge number of people each year file their taxes when we get into the first quarter of each year for the previous year. But once your finances become a little bit more complicated, and I'll go over some of the triggers for when this might make sense to you, you really can benefit from hiring a professional, whether it be an EA, an enrolled agent, or a CPA, perhaps, a certified public accountant, to actually handle the return for you. Now, before we jump into it, there is one really big distinction that we need to understand first, and that's the difference between tax compliance and tax planning. Tax software in general is great at tax compliance, which means reporting on transactions that have already happened. You log into your account on TurboTax, you can upload your W-2 and 1099s and other 1098s and tax documents directly to their portal. They'll read all the information and just fill in the blanks on your tax return for you. It's really, really good at that. What tax prep software will not do is tax planning, and that's help you make good informed decisions about transactions that haven't happened yet that may benefit you down the road based on your circumstances, based on your intentions, whether you care to try to reduce the amount of tax you're paying. There's just a whole lot of opportunity to engineer and organize your own financial picture so that the amount that you pay in tax at the end of the year aligns with everything else that you're trying to do in your life and with your finances and with your resources. Tax prep software is great at reporting on transactions that have happened. It's not very good at helping you make good decisions about transactions that haven't happened yet. So, when is the right time to ditch the software and hire an actual human being? What are some points that would signal that your situation has become too complex for the tax software? Well, number one, if you do want any engagement and any tax planning help, that's probably a pretty good trigger. But here are three other triggers that you might want to consider. Number one is if you have Schedule C income, if you're a business owner, if you're self employed, if you have any Schedule C or corporate income that you need to report, that's a pretty good time to start thinking about talking to a professional. Now, can TurboTax handle Schedule C income? Yes, absolutely it can. Can it answer your questions? Can you get hooked up with a live professional for more guidance? Yeah, absolutely. And if you have more basic Schedule C income, there are a lot of people in that situation who don't need anything more than TurboTax. That being said, if you have Schedule C income, you have some kind of self employment opportunities and tax opportunities and long term planning opportunities that the software is probably not going to alert you to because it just doesn't know what you're after long term to be able to highlight, well, is a simple IRA plan a good idea for you? Well, what about that SEP IRA? What about this tax loss harvesting technique? What about that home office deduction? Maybe we calculate that in a slightly different way for this other reason. There are a million reasons that an engaged professional tax person can bring good suggestions to the table in a way that the software hasn't really thought about yet. Maybe AI changes that here in the next few years, who knows? But we're not there yet. So if you have self-employment income, that's a good reason to consider talking with a professional. Number two, if you have a rental property, again, the tax software can handle the reporting of your rental property income and expenses and deductions and so forth. But there's a lot more planning opportunity when you own rental properties, which might be a good reason to think about talking with the professional. And three, if you owe the alternative minimum tax or AMT, there's a lot of planning opportunities in that. There may be things that you can do to circumvent paying the AMT. There may be things that you can do to minimize the amount of AMT that you have to pay. But the devil is in the details in your own situation. And to date, tax prep software is just not capable of bringing those ideas to your attention. So those are three things, three circumstances that I might look for. And if you're in one, you might consider hiring a tax person this year. Now, a couple things to note. Enrolled agents and CPAs are both qualified tax professionals who can represent you in front of the IRS if you ever get audited or need to have any kind of dialogue. They have different background, different education, experience, testing requirements, but both are probably qualified. Again, circumstances depending. Another thing that you should know is that if you do plan to continue with the software, while it's great because it's inexpensive and the software is great at tax compliance, you should know that you are very likely paying for that service because the software is harvesting your personal information and then aggregating it with everybody else using the software and selling it off to third parties. It might be anonymized. Your social security number is probably not being attached to, or maybe it is being attached to your income and expenses and deductions and other information that shows up on your return. But information sharing is the revenue stream that enables TurboTax and all these other operations to offer the software, the compliance to you in the tax filing for such minimal cost. So just be aware of that. If you're comfortable with it, no big deal, but it's something that we all should know. So hope this was helpful. Talk to you all again soon. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button at the bottom of the screen and subscribe to the channel to make sure that you're notified anytime we come out with something new. On top of that, if you're not sure whether you're on track financially, you might want to check out our free wealth gauge assessment. There's a link for it in the comments. Basically, you click the link, you take 3 minutes to fill out some basic financial information about yourself. We take that information and run it through our financial planning software. Then we send you via email a short private video of our findings and 30,000-foot observations.